How's it going, guys? I'm Chuck Phillip with Almost Skinner. We're a Leonard Skinner tribute band, and we played the Shrimp Festival for now 2 years in a row, and I want to thank everybody there that allowed us to come back and play there again. There's no doubt that if you go to one of these, you'll certainly come back the next year. Now, I also convert all old formats of film, and so you're going to see some 8mm footage of this. I like watching these old 8mm films. I hope you will as well. And so it took me a while to get this put together, and I'm trying to keep these episodes short. So I'm going to do a follow-up episode on Gulf Shores itself. Sometime, hopefully this month, I'll get that out. But this channel is also about home preservation as well. I'm a retired home and commercial building inspector, and my house is like you, a laboratory. I've got all kinds of experiments going on here on how to preserve our homes. And so for that reason there, these videos will certainly help you protect your investment. And I want to thank you for being part of this channel, so please subscribe to it. And like I say, if you hit that notification bell, it will let you know when I get the next one out. I look forward to seeing y'all at one of our next shows too, guys.
The following program is brought to you in living color.
Okay, I'm southbound on Highway 59, headed to the Shrimp Festival. This was this past weekend, October the 12th of 2024. And it took me a little over an hour to get down there. And of course, was some heavy traffic, especially when I got to the Gulf Shores, but it really wasn't that bad. And so, I remember going back when I used to work at the Gulf Shores NFL. This has been around 1985 or 6. And it took me about 35 minutes to get there then. But I've been going down here since the 60s. My Aunt Alice and her boyfriend at the time, Paul, would take me down here in the real early 60s. I'm talking about 63, 64. And at that time, that's all there was just farmland and trees going all the way to the Gulf. And occasionally you'd run into a country store on the side of the road. And so all this has changed over the years. Our population's gotten really big. And so Miss Bemis, she was a resident of Gulf Shores, and she was also a realtor. She was also a newlywed in 1970, so her husband took her over to Bala Battery to witness the blessing of the fleet.
Thousands line the shore and piers to witness this unique old world custom. In a seemingly endless line, each boat passes to receive the blessing of deity for a good catch and a safe return. The boats head out into the Gulf to reap the harvest of shrimp. Commercial fishing is big business in this area, creating home and export trade. These tasty morsels may be your next shrimp remoulade.
And to her astonishment, she said there was thousands of people there. And it instantly dawned on her, why cannot we do this in Gulf Shores? And so all it takes is one person to kick off something really big, and that's what she set out to do. And so in 1971, they had their first shrimp festival. And according to her, it was pretty successful. They had, 500 people show up, and I would consider that successful as well, especially with the population being what it was back then. So, and it's mostly fishermen. These people lived there, and they used the home of Gulf Shores as their launching pad to go out in the Gulf and catch fish and or to shrimp.
To the fishermen, it's paradise. For nature has bountifully stocked the Gulf waters and the 1,500 miles of bays, rivers, and bayous in the area with 35 different varieties of fish.
In fact, she stated that some of these fishermen would stay out months at a time. And so I thought it was really fitting that instead of doing the blessing of the feet on this side of the bay, she decided to do a shrimp festival, which has turned out to be astonishingly successful over the decades. Now, what I find also surprising to me was the last time I was there prior to doing these past two shows there as Leonard Skinner Tribute was 1981. Me and my friend Randy Godwin and some others went there. We got a room at the Holiday Inn and stayed for the 1981 Shrimp Festival. And so it's hard to believe it was the 10th Shrimp Festival then, and this past year is the 51st. So, wow, the time has gone by. But I will say this, the level of professionalism that everybody in Gulf Shores that either volunteered for this or had some part in directing this is really what made this as good as it is now. Now, I know some of you who watch this have probably not been to the Gulf since the 80s yourself, or maybe in the 70s. And I know some of you probably say, well, I'm not going to go down there and get in that big old crowd. Well, I had that same sort of feeling. I don't like big crowds either. But I'm going to tell you, as much as you're probably not going to believe this, it does not feel crowded at all. It really doesn't. Even though there's a lot of people there, it's because there's so much room to move around. And so, yes, it can certainly handle large crowds there. And I have no doubt if you decide to go down there, you're going to be glad you did. You're going to go to the next one too. So anyway, you know, as this thing progressed through the years or the decades, you know, they expanded the different types of functions they did there. In 1966, they came up with this real beautiful icon for the city. They called her Miss Sunny, and so she was on billboards, bumper stickers, anything they could put this beautiful woman on, that's where they put her. And I remember seeing their signs, you know, around at the time when I was headed to the Gulf. And so basically what happened was is in 1970 when they started the Shrimp Festival, well, they also started a Miss Sunny thing, and that's what they called this icon here was Miss Sunny. The mayor at the time, who was very young and one of the youngest in America, said it was always a sunny day in Gulf Shores, and so that's where that name came from. Now, part of the idea for creating this Miss Sunny thing was, you know, kind of going along with the era back then. I mean, I remember this era well. I grew up through it. I'm a boomer. And so I also remember the Coppertone signs, too, that advertised the suntan lotion. And they also, too, had a girl mascot for it, or a representative of it. It was Jodie Foster. So check this out.
Be a pale face, use Coppertone.
Get the fastest tan that anyone can. Tan don't burn, get a Coppertone tan.
Now, sometime along the way, they also created a Miss Sunbeam. And so when I think of Sunbeam, I think of the bread. Well, that bread company also had several girl mascots for it. And I remember the Sunbeam clocks being in the school. And so I'm going to let y'all put in the comments basically how that went, because I really wasn't able to gather a whole lot of information about, you know, how the Miss Sunbeam worked out. From what I've gathered, it's probably younger girls within middle school range and younger. Now, I'm not sure what all that they judged for as far as picking a winner. I know that if it was based on beauty and I was a judge, you just simply had 30 Miss Sunnies. That's how I would have done it. But all these girls back then were more than just beautiful. They were very intelligent. And they had a lot of energy to go and do what Gulf Shores needed them to do, which to promote the city. These contestants came from all over Baldwin County. And I found it real interesting when I started looking at this roster. They had sponsors, and I've noticed that Wilson 76 was one of the sponsors, and he was Bobby Wilson. He's also the fire chief of Spanish Fort and also owned this service station. And so he sponsored Ashley Atkins, and there's another photograph there with her and her family and her sister. They were very beautiful girls, and so was their mom, and all of them were very intelligent as well. And I also noticed that Tracy Fisher was also a contestant, and she lived here in the neighborhood with me. Her dad was an architect that designed some of these flat roof houses and also some of the buildings here in Spanish Fort. But I also saw where Gulfgate Lodge sponsored one of these contestants. And interestingly enough, I played at Gulfgate Lodge for 2 summers in a row. I think it was 87, 88. And also stayed at one of the condos there at the Gulf too during this time. And man, I tell you, I sure missed that. I haven't been able to do that since then. And I did notice that Emperor Clocks was on here as a sponsor. Well, I used to stuff envelopes for them for advertising brochures back in the early 70s. So I found all this kind of cool. And so this is why I did this episode on this. And I'm going to have to do a second part to this to keep this from being too long. All right, guys, as promised, I'm going to keep this short, so I am going to do a follow-up episode to this. And if you'd like to be notified when that comes out, just click the subscribe button down here. Also click the notification bell. That'll let you know when that happens. I also want to thank all the people who worked really hard to make this event what it was. I mean, it's astonishingly how competent all these volunteers are and all the directors that put this on. And so I want to thank the City of Gulf Shores. I want to thank Todd Brown for having us there again. And I hope we get to party with y'all again next year too, because man, I tell you, y'all are a fantastic crowd. It was just a fun event for everybody down there. And so leave your comments below because that helps all of us out. And I look forward to seeing y'all again on the next episode of this. I'm looking forward to putting it up. I love you guys. Y'all take care.